the stack that drive digital transformation, Mean Stack. I welcome you all in this webinar. My name is Prabhu Jha. I'm the solution architect in the Progress Technology, and with me we have Vikas.
Hello everyone.
He's the solution architect in the digital services. So we are going to discuss how this Mean Stack is relevant for the digital transformation in the spectrum of Progress Technology or any other spectrum. We can take any question if you have in between. We'll try to answer you during the webinar as well. And if you're not able to answer during the webinar, then we'll try to answer it at the end. If due to the time constraint we may not able to answer, then we'll certainly get back to you through the email. But we'll surely try to answer your questions. So before we move forward, we have this idea of digital transformation. This terminology has been coined for quite some time, and we thought that why not we define it a little bit and see it from the perspective of a business application. What exactly is? I mean, it can have many and different meanings for the different users or the organizations, but for a typical perspective, it is getting to time to market is faster. I mean, you can bring your services faster to the market. You can bring the new products or new services quickly to the market. You have optimized business operation so that your cost is properly in the control. And the top of all that, exceptional end-to-end customer experience. I mean, you wanted to have your customer, your user, your end user of your application is have a perfect experience. So being said that, there are certain drivers for these transformation objectives. Few of the key drivers are obviously the customer satisfaction. Whoever is your customer of your application has to be properly addressed that they are getting what they are looking for, and you are profitably doing that. You cannot compromise on the profitability as well, because that's important for the business. And how you are tackling the competition, your competition bringing the new application, new services, new products every time, and how quickly you can take it to the market so that you will remain ahead of the competition. And in order to, for these drivers, there are certain challenges if you have a legacy system. One of the top challenges, your architecture is closed. You have your application is not flexible for the adoption of the new technologies. Cost of storage is high if you have if you are just holding your own data center. If you are managing your infrastructure yourself, probably you would like to leverage a cloud-based infrastructure. And in a typical legacy system, there is a lot of things done manually. There are a few things are automated, and you try to bring the coordination in between, and it is error prone, and that need to be addressed. That's a big challenge. And the most important is the user or customer experience, how they have been handled. So going forward, I think Vikas is going to discuss on how we should move forward in this journey. Vikas.
Thank you, Prabhu. So I'll begin with discussion of how your organization matures on its digital transformation journey. So we will be discussing this digital maturity on these three parameters, which are people, teams, and culture, working practices, processes, and tools, change management, and KPIs of the organization. And the initial state to begin with is usually the emergency state. This is a state where you have not done anything about digital transformation. The knowledge is isolated and is in silos. There is lack of focus on training, cross-training, and knowledge sharing. There is waterfall and other frigid methodologies are in use. DevOps is not present if we talk of processes. Testing is manual, and speed to market is really undetermined because of infrequent release cycles. And all of this is happening on account of lack of focus on digital capability development. So when you are at this stage, the next stage you target to attain is intermediate state, which is also called managed state, wherein you have improved your people, teams, and culture to become competence-oriented, have centers of excellence. Your staff is believes in knowledge sharing. There are specialists and generalists both. The environment is collaborative and supports agility, whether it's people or your development processes. You believe in working to get this software, get your IT, deliver results fast and in shorter increments. So you rely on automation as much as possible. You rely on rapid prototyping and continuously building these applications. And all this is possible if your digital maturity is one of your key objectives. Now, there are not so many organizations which have reached this level, but the optimum level is called optimized, and that includes people who are T-shaped skilled, which means every person would have a vertical specialization, whereas the person will also have a diverse skill set so that that person can manage multiple things or can contribute to other departments, other teams' work as well. The entrepreneurship skill is always supported by the organization. Teams are small, nimble, diverse, and are really practicing agile. DevOps has been implemented, and your cost to development and maintenance is reduced. All this is possible if the leadership and operations both, they are aligned together, and they both value digital vision, and the strategy is agile and adaptive. So after we have discussed this, we want to talk about how to select which is the technology set that is applicable, that is useful for taking you through this digital transformation maturity. So in order to discuss that, we will have to discuss the pillars of digital transformation. What is it that constitutes it today? And the 4 pillars of digital transformations are social, mobile, analytics, and cloud. We will discuss various goals of a technology stack that help you reap advantages of each one of these pillars. So we start with integration friendliness. Your technology stack should be integration friendly in this today's interconnected world. Everything is connected. The availability of data should be possible in real time, as opposed to previously used legacy system which had latency of data for every purpose, whether it's analytics. If you guys are from ETL background, you would know that for analytics and reporting, data almost always had latency, which is no longer compromisable. Now, it should be, your technology stack should support agility and should be DevOps friendly as well. It must support big data, otherwise you will not be able to take advantage of so much of data that is being generated with every user interaction your application is having with the outside world. And it should also support great user experience, because ultimately customer experience, customer satisfaction is on top of your objectives. Speed of development and performance, both are really important if you want to cut down costs, ensure maintainability, ensure good user experience. Now, this is the skill set, the technical stack that we propose for guiding you and for utilizing along the transformation. And in this webinar, we are going to discuss various bits and pieces applicable to Mean and its relevance to digital transformation. So Mean stack is MongoDB, Express, AngularJS, and Node.js. You would already be aware or familiar with these libraries, platforms. We will be taking a deeper look on what constitutes this Mean stack, really. So everything that is required for building a web or internet connected application, this stack includes each one of that. So you start with UI frameworks, and virtually every framework that is there for UI and is interoperable with JavaScript is supported here. Similarly, for package management, you have NPM for Node.js, Bower for AngularJS and front-end side. For building, you can use Grunt or Gulp with a continuous integration tool like Jenkins or CodeShip or Travis or Bamboo, anything like that. For supporting agility and test-driven development or behavior-driven development, You can use Chai, Jasmine, Mocha, Karma, Protector, and there are so many others as well, but these are the most popular ones. For giving your application a complete skeleton, you choose Express. We prefer to choose Express for its reasons. For version control and caching, again, you have multiple choices. And at the end, to power your backend, you have Node.js. That's a JavaScript-based implementation, supports real-time availability of data. And everything is written using JavaScript, which is why we call it isomorphic JavaScript as well. Coming to why MeanStack. We discussed the components of an application developed using MeanStack, but these are essentially the benefits that you get if you use MeanStack for your development. And I will try to establish the relevance of these with the goals we earlier established. Those are integration friendliness. So with JSON and microservices, integration really becomes, I won't call it a cakewalk, but relatively far better maintainable. Real-time data availability is facilitated through non-blocking I/O and event-based architecture, JSON, and the faster response times that Node.js enables. Agility and DevOps friendliness with Express framework and the testing and its automation possible through it. Big data support. Of course, MongoDB with its ability to support MapReduce, it is good for supporting big data. Support of great UI, great UX is facilitated by AngularJS and various other built-in plugins for client-side libraries. So you can comfortably choose Kendo UI or Bootstrap or let's say Adobe Flex or literally anything you want to use for building a great user experience. Speed of development and performance both are the key highlights of this stack. So Express allows great speed of development and performance. Of course, as I've been saying repeatedly, MongoDB, Node.js, and microservices, all three things help you obtain the speed you always wanted in terms of times of execution and performance and scalability. Now, we want to discuss the way you architect your transformation, and I will request Prabhu to kick in, please.
Yeah, so in a typical legacy world, as we have been talking in terms of transformation or modernization, the question comes like either you replace your system or you reuse your system. I mean, there is not any other solution is either the combination of these two. So both have its own pros and cons, and for any transformation journey, this is one of the biggest challenges the organization face in terms of what to do. I mean, do you want to replace it? It's cleaner way. It has its own advantage, and but at the same time, you have years of built-in legacy system with years of investment, and it's a tough, it's a challenging thing that just to throw away and bring everything new. So let's take a closer look and see what are the pros and cons of both the options if we decide to do the transformation or modernization. Obviously, replacing your current application is less complex because once you do the blueprinting, you can quickly choose the right solution. If you have already evaluated the solution, you just implement it, and there you go. I mean, it's like buying a new car. You just walk into the showroom, you pay whatever down payment you have to, and you drive. So you have a quicker ROI. I mean, you can immediately enjoy the drive. I mean, people will immediately see after the implementation the benefit of the new system, all the latest and greatest things, and its ROI is quick. Program duration is shorter because whatever you do it before you do the implementation, and once the rollout is happened, I mean, there is some glitches here and there, but its new system is in place. On the other hand, there are several cons also in that. Cost is high because obviously you will have to bear the cost of the license of the new product as well as the cost of implementation and the cost of throwing away the legacy. So all that add to the cost. You will have to spend a lot amount of effort in doing the data migration because your older system data and your newer system data may have pull apart, so you will have to do the proper mapping, migration, and this has to be a huge program in itself. Then the risk of business disruption is also pretty high because if anything goes wrong in your blueprinting, has not done properly and you roll out, and if you don't have any proper risk management behind the scene, then things can go here to there. You will have to be always on your foot on your toe to maintain the quality, because you are implementing a new system. You don't know the quality you are going to get with it, and your domain expertise and domain experts will always be involved from the beginning to the end, so they are very less available for your day-to-day operation. On the other side, if you see, if you augment or reuse your existing application, what are the benefits? Obviously, you can maximize the use of your legacy, and your cost is properly utilized. I mean, you are not throwing away it. Change management is easier because your core of the application or the heart of the application is intact. You are building the things around it, peripherals around it. Risk of business discontinuity is also addressed here because you are doing the incremental change. You are not doing a big bang change. Cost of quality is also pretty low here because your core of the system is same and you are building the things peripheral around it, and it's incremental changes, so it can better managed. And your success can be managed because you can success manage of the each incremental you're doing it. But the other side of it, that you have to deal a longer program duration because you are doing incremental changes, so you will have to manage the stakeholder for all the program duration, and you have to keep them involved, keep them engaged. Your as is to be analysis has to be done pretty well so that you do not miss any of the modernization or transformation goals. And obviously, ROI will going to take some time because the program duration is longer, and people will start seeing the benefit of the new system only your 50 or 50 plus or 60% plus % of the implementation has done. So these are certain points which you can consider. Our recommendation is to augment and reuse your existing application so that you can protect your investment and you can get maximum of the best of the both worlds. So I will just again bring Vikas again to explain our technology solution around that.
Okay. Yeah, so even if you choose to augment or reuse your applications, this is the proposed technology situation wherein your situation has an omni-channel consistent customer experience, which means that all the devices, all the touch points, your customers are going to have the same continuous experience. So if I am using a mobile and using your application right now, and for some reason my battery dies down, and I switch on my tablet, I have the session beginning right from there using the same interface wherein I don't have to spend additional time figuring out things. Similarly, with other devices, other touch points like Internet of Things, social media, web browser, or television ads, or hoardings, billboards, or anything to that effect. Now, this set of devices and touch points are connected with your backend over RESTful web services, and these RESTful web services are exposed by your Node.js application hosted in the cloud, which also powers analytics using the same JSON format, and also is integrated with all other parties which your business is going to benefit from, like your partners, your customers, third parties, or anything else for that matter. And then this is still taking advantage of the progress-based backend with certain modifications. So everything changes, but keeping your legacy assets still useful. So progress backend will also undergo changes, which Prabhu will explain in the next slide along with me. So this is the detailed view of the proposed architecture, wherein I think Prabhu can start with explaining what we changed in the progress backend.
Yeah, so in the progress backend side, I mean, we have been consistently recommending that you upgrade to at least version 11 and onwards. And 11.6, where Progress has brought in Pacific Application Server PaaS, it has everything latest and greatest. I mean, it is pretty stable, and we have implemented solution for some of our customers, and we can vouch for that. This is something which can really make your modernization and digital transformation journey smooth, and bringing everything from different framework which Vikas has been talking so far. PaaS is kind of has a combined for all the whether you wanted to use the web transport layer or RESTful economy or SOAP-based UI economy, you can do that. With the PaaS, it's everything can be done through the OpenEdge Studio, or you can use PaaS Explorer, where you can deploy it from there and manage it from there. And if your legacy system is in whatever version it is, you can quickly build the things on top of it, and you don't have to do a lot of things around it. And it works pretty fine with everything which we have been explaining so far.
So once your progress system is ready and is able to expose its RESTful services, it's time when your Node.js based application consumes that in form of a REST API, in form of JSON structured data, and connects with MongoDB if required in a load balanced fashion using sharding or replica sets, and has a routing logic which talks to the controller and model in Node.js application. The routing logic allows the AngularJS based frontend to send its requests to, and then the data sent to and from the Node.js backend can be consumed by AngularJS frontend and can be shown to the end customer on whichever device they want to do. Now, this AngularJS based frontend is powered by the two-way binding feature of AngularJS, which connects the view, controller, and model in a two-way binding fashion, which means the data updates is really quick and is well managed and maintained, because it is an MVC structure, and you can really build a great code which is unit testable separately, whereas you can test the API, RESTful API separately, you can test the progress-based API separately, or you can integrate all of these in one continuous integration build and move an inch towards the continuous delivery capability. So in the next slide, we are going to discuss how we are going to design your transformation roadmap. The premise is that we decided that we would be preferring to reuse or augment your existing legacy applications, but how? That is the real question. And another question is, if we want to augment or reuse your legacy applications, when in future, or will ever in future, be able to transform completely and move away from legacy to the modern systems? So here is the answer, and so the answer is, we start with the overall IT spectrum and its analysis. We choose an IT increment to be transformed. As I said, we will be doing it incrementally in a cyclic fashion. You choose the least risky business areas and start with developing DevOps capability. Ultimately, cost and maintainability are important factors as well. You identify the cost centers because you want to focus on reducing the costs as well. Now, after you have selected the least risky business area, you identify your new UX goals and plan for UX transformation. Given that, you start with identifying the solution building blocks of the IT increment you choose. You develop those pieces of application with a better UX, that is the transform UX on the mean stack. Once they have been developed, after you have conducted your testing and everything, you run parallel betas in a separate concurrent stream and conduct A/B test or multivariate test to test the success of this transformation. And after the success, you integrate it back into the system and make it a part of your overall IT spectrum. On the other aspects, like incrementing your capability of DevOps, you start with continuous integration. You continue to take small steps until you reach good maturity in maturing these processes and develop capability. You start with, after you have implemented continuous integration, you start with mandating the unit tests and automating the testing of your code, increase good code coverage to whatever extent possible. You automate, the next step is to automate the functional tests. Functional tests are usually more complex to automate than unit tests. So after you have reached a good level of unit test coverage, then you should ideally focus on functional test automation. And along with other disciplines, other skills like environment management, containerization, virtualization, you reach a state of continuous delivery. On the infrastructure side and cost center side, you choose a right cloud solution. You plan for deployment and business continuity, because with infrastructure change, business continuity comes under risk. You plan around that, and ultimately you get a transformed IT increment. Now this is the increment which needs to merge back into the overall one. Another IT increment should be chosen, same set of steps, along with the added maturity that you've gained over time, over past iterations, and this continues to happen until your stakeholders, your customers, all are satisfied with the transformation, and you already would know that because you have conducted A/B tests, multivariate tests, and various other usability studies. So we would be talking about an example use case wherein our customer was an ISV having a product built on Progress 8, which is an old version of Progress, and the state prior to transformation was it had a Windows-based GUI implementation having no web interface, and there was no mobile application available. Besides, it had expensive, hard to maintain, non-standard based integration mechanisms with the parties it had to integrate with. Now what we did was, we started with as-is analysis and to-be analysis, and as part of that, we started with usability study, understanding of revenue and cost centers, building understanding of needs related to scalability and performance, and of course bottlenecks, spotting the bottlenecks, and all the constraints that were stopping them from utilizing multiple channels of customer engagement. So as part of the to-be analysis, we identified the new user experience goals along with the goals related to internationalization, localization, scalability, and forecast the data volumes that they anticipated in various periods, in 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, and so on. We identified the need for analytics and identified the need for reaching out to to customers over various channels. So really the multi-channel capability. As a result, we started with adoption of Agile and started with continuous integration. We mandated unit tests for our development teams, whether it was on front end or back end. We built test automation framework for functional testing and tried to maximize the automation of testing. Along with that, we performed UX transformation, and our target were web browsers and various mobile devices. We used AngularJS and Kendo UI, which is a Progress product. On the Progress backend, we upgraded Progress OpenEdge to version 11.6, utilized things like PaaS, built RESTful API from Progress. Again, we chose an appropriate cloud based on the data volume forecast, and we created the Node.js API and set up the automated regression tests. We used Swagger, 3Scale, and SoapUI for the testing and documentation of the API, and then we integrated the web analytics, which we used Google Analytics for, and used the Node.js-based API into a mobile application which we built using the Telerik platform. So I will be taking you through the API economy that we created for this specific client, and here is the link to it.
Yeah, I mean, just wanted to add here that there's so many moving things in here, so we cannot take you into all the part of it, so Vikas is just going to give you a quick glimpse of API economy he has maintaining in the Swagger.
Yes. So we built it using Swagger. The API was built using Express and Node.js, and here this Swagger came as a nice and fancy tool for giving us a complete documentation of the complete API. As you can see, you can notice the verbs and nouns here. You could also check you can use this API to see the documentation, as you can see here. So you know what this API is for, you know various parameters and what they are for, you know their data types, you know the ideal response codes once you have them, and then you have a mechanism to test them in real time right there where they are. So I'll test one of those for you. And I supplied these parameters and got a response immediately. So you have the values coming out for your usage, for your consumption in your front end, and you have the request URL, you have response code and all the response headers here. This will allow you to debug as well, and the curl part here will allow you to automate your tests using a continuous integration build as well. And the interesting part is you can, we have built not just the Node.js based API and tested it, we also built the Progress based API, and many of the API calls here, many of the endpoints here are from Progress. So it actually strengthens the notion of location transparency. So coming back to the presentation, Prabhu will discuss how this stack, mean stack, it remains relevant to the Progress ecosystem, how you still are within the Progress ecosystem if you use this stack for your transformation.
Yeah, so this question obviously going to come is that from the mean stack, none of that seems familiar in terms of when we talk about the Progress ecosystem, but let me tell you that that's not the case. A Telnik platform, which is one of the very popular hybrid mobile platform development tool, although it's not directly part of the main stack, but this is one of the key tools for your digital transformation, and you can select that, and you can use the API economy within that main stack, and you can very much use that Telnik platform for one of your modernization pillar, or transformation pillar. AngularJS is again is a framework which is backed by Google. It is not proprietary to the Progress, but it's a very popular framework. It has been used by many big and large applications and by many big organizations, and it's pretty stable, and this framework can really help you in, if you use it with the past in your journey for the digital transformation. A native script, again, it's not something I heard name quite a lot, but it is again a project. Progress has been talking that it is a project done with, in the coordination with Google and Progress. It's a joint project where when this will go into the major adoption, you will see that the native script will change the entire way we are currently doing the development. This is once you develop the user interface, the same UI can be used for within the mobile apps, native apps, as well as hybrid apps, and for the web UI as well. So it's not in the adoption, but you will hear a lot about this in the coming days. The Modulus platform from the Progress, which has a Node.js and the MongoDB already on that, and if you use that as one of your cloud solution, you will see that you are within the Progress ecosystem, and you can bring the other Progress components on this cloud as well. Kendo UI from the Telnik, House of Telnik is another thing. Many of you are aware. If you have not used it, there's a lot of free controls in the JavaScript controls in the Kendo UI. You can try that. There are some controls which are obviously come through the license, but it's very easy to integrate with any of your web application, or if you're using the mobile platform, then you know that you have a lot of controls there for that as well. PaaS is on top. Is the basis of is on that basis, on that foundation that everything is going to sit properly. Progress has combined all those application server, the web speed transition server, all the transport layers, web transport layer, REST layer, and everything on the PaaS, and it has Tomcat also encapsulated in it. So you just use this once, and then you don't have to worry about the web server or app server or anything. It's all at one place. So if you see from this spectrum that all the technology which we are recommending or suggesting, you will be very much going to remain within the Progress ecosystem, and you can achieve all the major modernization and transformation goal within this ecosystem.
So we will be talking about how JKT can help you plan your transformation and execute your plans. So we offer a no obligation, no strings attached evaluation of your situation corresponding to your legacy applications. We are able to support you during every phase of development of mean-based applications, whether it's design, development, code reviews, deployment, or maintenance, or just pure consulting or solutioning. We can help you move away from monolithic systems to microservices or SOA-based systems. And with our UX and UI capabilities, we are able to plan your UX transformation as well. We would like to take questions and answers now, and we would be, so let the questions come through.
Okay, so one of the question is, what is the benefit of MinStack over WebSpeed? Just, I don't know if many of you have used the WebSpeed, but WebSpeed is a Progress-based technology and tools. I would say these two are separate things. WebSpeed is very much alive and kicking, and it's very important where it is, and it should be. On the other hand, MinStack is more of a complete set of framework, tools, and technologies which enables you to the digital transformation. So this should be looked into. WebSpeed can be one of the tools or technology also part of the whole spectrum, but it should not be compared against each other.
So another question is here: what version of OpenEdge is ideal for mean-based modernization? Prabhu, would you like to answer that?
Yeah, I mean, I would say you can any version after version 10 is you can still go for a modernization, but our recommendation is to go for version 11.6, which is very much suited for that. It has a PaaS, and 11.6.2 has it's a very stable version with certain patches in it, and you should certainly consider it. That is, you are choosing as one of the key objective to the digital transformation.
So another question is, can we use an older version of OpenEdge with MinStack? I think this question has already been answered.
Yeah, we have I've answered that. You can still use it. I mean, if you talk about the older version, I will not say older than 10, but it will be a little challenging in terms of more activities will be involved, but you can still do it. But our recommendation is still going to remain with the version 11.6. So yeah.
So the next question is, how is MinStack able to allow for mobile enablement? Yes, so as we said during the webinar, it allows creation of a RESTful API layer. It can be SOAP-based API layer as well, and it allows transmission of data in real time. So which means that your mobile application can utilize the data really fast. The latencies where, every mobile user experiences latencies when there is synchronization taking place between the device and internet. But by using Node.js, the speed really becomes your, strength rather than weakness. So you can use that data directly from it, or you can use some data offline, some data directly. So that's the real advantage of using Node.js-based backend.
Okay, so I guess we are kind of started running out of time. So if you have any question, feel free to send us, and we'll take it over the email. Thank you all for joining today's webinar, and hope you enjoyed this informative session. Again, see you again. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.